Hey, what's up, guys? Pete Alonso here from the New York Mets, and I'm here with Alfred. And I just want to say thank you so much to all you guys for listening to the Metropolitan Report. It's a really awesome show. You got some great insight on Mets baseball, and yeah, it's a great place where Mets baseball is talked about, and we got a lot of really fun stuff coming up this year. And a lot of really great things coming from this team in the clubhouse, and I'm really excited to keep the ball rolling. And it's been such a fun season, and I'm really thankful for everybody coming out to the ballpark and supporting us, and it's just been absolutely tremendous. So thank everybody for listening to the Metropolitan Report, and Alfred, keep doing your thing, and as always, LFGM.
Good morning, everybody. It's Alfred Parsar Jr. back with another Metropolitan Report. And in this Metropolitan Report, we're going to go over the Mets' opening weekend series at home against the Toronto Blue Jays. But before we get into any discussion about that series, I just have to remind you, if you like what you see on this channel, if you love the content, if you agree or disagree with my opinions, but you're engaged, then we need you to go below, right there below, and hit the subscribe button. That way, every time there's a new Metropolitan Report, you get notified and you'll be the first ones to know. And then you can tell all your friends that, hey, there's this Pete Alonso co-signed podcast that I listen to about the Mets that I think you might want to check out. So, again, hit that subscribe button, like, and leave a comment if you enjoy the Metropolitan Report and you like what you see. So here on this Monday morning, the Mets sit at 6-3 here on Monday, April 7th, and the Mets just had their home opening series against the Toronto Blue Jays. They played them Friday, Saturday, and yesterday, and the Mets pulled out the brooms and swept the Toronto Blue Jays. It's weird to me that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had a very rough series against us, and I wake up this morning and find out that the man has been signed to a 15-year, $500 million contract with no deferred money. Doesn't play for my team, but congratulations, young man. Go ahead and get the bag and get paid. Get paid, young fella, get paid. But despite Vlad getting paid this morning, what he did not do this weekend was win. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the New York Mets took care of business. Coming into this weekend series, the Blue Jays were first in the American League East. They are no longer first in the American League East entering into today, which is Monday, as again, the Mets, they pulled out the brooms, as you can see by this picture here of my good friend and yours, Mr. Met, with the brooms at the end of yesterday's game. But it was a heck of a series. Now, we're going to talk about what we liked and who stood out first before we get to what we don't like. So, up first, friend of the show, Mr. Peter Morgan Alonso, his second good series of the season. Of course, I highlighted Pete after the series in Miami. Pete again. On Friday, he hit a home run. Yesterday, RBI single. For the series, he hit 300, had one home run, three RBIs, and drew one walk. Not the monster numbers that he had in Miami, but anytime you could end a series hitting 300 on the nose, that's always good. Of course, the Mets on Friday, they won 5-0. Pete had the two-run home run there. The Mets winning 2-1 yesterday, and Pete Alonso driving in one of those runs. What can I say, Pete? He, you got to understand, folks, and let's just rewind for a second here. Pete Alonso, prior to spring training last season, was offered a 7-year extension, but the money just wasn't what he wanted. He turned it down. Bet on himself, upcoming free agent, had a down year by his standards the end of last season, then renegotiated for 4 years. Then it became three. Then it became one. They upped it to two with a player option for him to opt out after the season's over. Okay, he took that deal. He took the 2 year. The Mets basically gave him the deal that they wanted to give him. Okay. But to start the year so far, two back-to-back productive series, Pete is really uh Pete's really honing it in. As of right now, he is both the team leader in RBIs and home runs. Doing a heck of a job is Pete Alonso. And if Pete can keep this up, if Pete can keep this level of productivity up the entire season, then the Mets, they've got to pay him. He should rightfully opt out and get his money and get his years and bring him to the contract that's going to have him retire in this organization. Especially now that, and this has been no secret, all these Met fans, and I know quite a few of them personally, who, when Pete did not sign yet back with us, and we were waiting to see what was going to happen at first base, when it looked like the Mets were ready to move on, they said, "Oh, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to be a free agent at the end of this season. Why don't we just wait for him and bring him to Flushing, and we're going to enter the Vladimir Guerrero sweepstakes?" Well, it's a good thing Pete came back, because there is no Vladimir Guerrero Jr. sweepstakes after the deal he just signed this morning. What other first baseman are you going to get? Paul Goldschmidt? Yeah, he's on an expiring contract this year, but he's a bit older, and he's not the same Paul Goldschmidt that was Arizona Diamondback, or even early in his tenure with the with the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm sorry. Who else you going to get? It's not Anthony Rizzo may not even play baseball this year at the major league level. He's still sitting home unsigned. Christian Walker got a bag from the Astros. So free agent market for first baseman is going to look rough. This upcoming free agency is going to be full of pitchers, aside from Alonso, who's clearly a first baseman and not a pitcher. So, but for what it's worth, Pete Alonso, another solid series, and he'll look to keep that up when the Marlins come to town this evening, as the Mets are scheduled to play the Marlins today, tomorrow, and Wednesday before heading out to Sacramento to play the Athletics this weekend. But more on that later. But Pete Alonso, he's coming to the plate like a man on a mission, and I understand, rightfully so. I would feel scorned too if I've been a homegrown star, a fan favorite, and the team didn't want to pay me after I bailed them out and saved their season last season. Just remember, Alonso doesn't hit that home run in Milwaukee in the wild card round. There's no NLDS versus the Phillies, and you don't. And if you don't get past the Phillies in the NLDS, you don't go to the NLCS, and are 2 wins away from a World Series. So Pete Alonso saved the Mets from a playoff extinction last season in the wild card round, and doing damage so far this season, leading the club in homers and RBI. So gotta appreciate Pete with what he's doing. But Pete Alonso, another solid series. He'll look to keep it up the next 3 days against the Miami Marlins. Now, our next standout performer from this series against Toronto, he had one good game. I'm not going to say he had a great series, but he had one good game, and that was Jesse Winker. On Saturday, the Mets won 3-2 against the Toronto Blue Jays, and it was the bottom of the eighth. There were two out, and Francisco Lindor on second, Juan Soto on first, and Jesse Winker came up to the plate. Winker already had a double and a triple in the game already. Steps up to the plate in the bottom of the eighth. One swing of the bat goes off the top of the fence, so it's not a home run, but goes off the top of the fence. Winker gets to third. Soto and Lindor score. It's an RBI triple. For that game, Jesse Winker was an extra base hit machine on Saturday. He had one double and not one but two triples. It's already hard enough to get one triple in a game, but Jesse Winker said, "Please, sir, can I have another?" And he got two triples in the game to go along with two RBI. And that two RBI triple saved the game for the Mets. They were down in the bottom of the eighth, 2 runs to nothing. And Winker went ahead and knotted the game up before Francisco Lindor in the following inning happened to get a walk-off sac fly to win it. So Jesse Winker, again, went 3 for 4 on Saturday. Big reason. Probably one of the only reasons they win that game. 3 for 4, one double, and two triples with two RBIs. Of course, those two RBIs to tie the game up before the Mets would win it in the next inning in walk-off fashion. Jesse Winker, when he re-signed in the offseason, I said, okay, Winker is not going to be an everyday guy, especially as a lefty bat. Jesse Winker, somebody who's going to platoon at DH. Of course, Starling Marte has also seen time at designated hitter so far this season. Marte not doing as well as you would think somebody of Marte's known caliber should, but he and Jesse Winker are going to continue to platoon designated hitter, at least the way things are now so far in the young season. Of course, if the opposing starting pitcher is a righty, Winker being the left-handed batter, is going to go ahead and face that pitcher. If it's a lefty starter, Marte is going to get a crack at him. Of course, Marte had that homer in Miami, but it's been quiet since. But Winker with a heck of a game, a heck of a breakout game. And Winker has been proven to be a fan favorite. It's funny because when he played in Cincinnati and in Washington, he was not a fan favorite of the fan base at all. Of course, when he was a member of the Cincinnati Reds, he'd always made these comments about the Mets. And come to find out, this young man from Buffalo gets traded to the Mets, and all he said last season in one post game interview is, "This place is lit," and he became a fan favorite since. And a lot of Met fans, including myself, were glad to see that the Mets re-signed him to a deal this offseason. But Jesse Winker, heck of a game. Like I said, I gotta tip my hat to him. It's very rare to get one triple in a game, let alone two triples. And he did that along with a double on Saturday. Right? Unrealistically, Mets fans expected him to have somewhat of a repeat performance yesterday, but he had an offer yesterday. Didn't get a single hit. But again, Winker doesn't play or Winker's not in the lineup Saturday. The Mets don't win, and it's just that plain and simple. And then our last standout performer of this series, El Sugar, Edwin Diaz, our closer. Edwin Diaz made two appearances, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. He got the win on Saturday. He was the winning pitcher of record on Saturday. And he got the save yesterday. For those of you who may not understand baseball scoring rules, Diaz was the pitcher in the game Saturday. When the Mets took the lead, he pitched the top of the ninth. The Mets walked it off in the bottom of the ninth. Diaz is the winner. He came in with a small lead, a one-run lead yesterday, and he closed it out. Now, Diaz, up and down, he did pitch two scoreless innings in two appearances. But yesterday, he walked a batter and hit a batter. And ultimately, with 2 out and 2 on, up by one, he had to face the man that just got the bag, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Luckily for us, Vladdy had a horrible series against us. He grounded out to end the inning and the game. But Edwin Diaz, a lot of people, and here's the thing, and I noted this a couple of episodes back, but Edwin Diaz, we noted how the velocity on his fastball was topping out at 95. I was in attendance for all three games this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and yesterday, and I noticed Diaz, his fastball's going down to 94. A couple of times it was 94, a couple of times 96. So his fastball averages between 94 and 96 miles per hour. But for a guy who's lost considerable zip on his fastball, he sure does know how to use that slider. His slider is topped out at 89, but that's not a problem. Usually 90 miles per hour is good for a slider. But Edwin Diaz, even when it seems like things are rocky and things are about to go haywire and he's about to give up the lead. He locks down, threw that slider to Vladdy Jr. yesterday, and I guess Vlad's timing was off. He hit that ball hard, but it went right on the ground. So Edwin Diaz, for those of you and myself, because I can admit when I'm wrong, I was concerned about Diaz and his drop off of velocity of the fastball, but I'm quickly learning, as is every other Met fan, that this is nothing to be worried about and is manageable. Diaz is managing it. Diaz has not given up a run all year so far. His ERA is still 0, and Diaz continues to look good. Again, he's mixing in that slider with his four seamer, and dare I say, Edwin Diaz has made the adjustments to learn how to cope with this new lack of velocity in in his fastball. Again, Diaz, he's pitched 4 innings in 4 appearances this season, and again, he's got 6 strikeouts in those 4 innings. And win loss wise, he's 1-0 with 2 saves. Only one appearance did he pitch in that was not a save situation or a winning pitcher decision, just to get him some work. And he's looked good again. So far on the young year, 4 innings of scoreless baseball, and he's got more strikeouts than innings pitched. I'll always take that. But again, Edwin Diaz this weekend, 2 appearances, 2 innings, 2 scoreless innings. He went 1-0 with 1 save in the series against the Blue Jays. Now on to what we didn't like, and it's kind of scary here because now on Friday the Mets played a perfect game. They won 5-0, shut the Blue Jays out, and they scored 5 runs. Overall team effort. Pete Alonso hit that 2-run home run. He accounted for 2 of the 5 runs. But Saturday, Mets win by a run, 3-2 on the walk-off. Again, I keep talking about this never say die attitude that this Mets ball club has. It was prevalent in the second half of last season. They still have this moxie about them where they just will not die. And just when things look like they're at the brink of failure, the Mets somehow rise to the occasion and win. They'll give you a heart attack before you get to heaven, trust me. But for all of that, I got to admit, Saturday 3-2, Jesse Winker the hero. Yesterday, the Mets win 2-1. It's like every game that's not a high scoring game, and there haven't been many high scoring games from the Mets this season. They seem like they're not team efforts. Again, Jesse Winker the hero. Granted, other guys got on base to get in positions to score. Jose Siri got a walk on Saturday in the bottom of the ninth. He got on first. He stole second. Luis Torrens, the catcher, hit a single, but it wasn't deep enough to get Siri home. So he goes to third. Runners on the corners. Nobody out. Lindor comes up. Walk off sac fly. So that's one. And again, back to Saturday. Jesse Winker. He doesn't hit that triple. Mets most likely lose. So it seems like it's one guy who's responsible for the runs. Again, 2 out of the 3 RBIs on Saturday belong to Jesse Winker. So say what you will. The Met is like the bats have to wake up. Yesterday in the game, outside of a Pete Alonso and an RBI single, the hits were few and far between. Hayden Sanger had a hit. Mark Vientos had a hit. And other than that, the bats were quiet. The Mets scored 2 runs in the third inning and didn't score another run the rest of the way. So, and Brandon Nimmo had a RBI single. So again, these guys, they have to hit. They got to hit. The rest of the lineup has to hit. There's just no excuse for it because there's going to be times where your starting pitching is not going to be as effective as it is. There's going to be times where the bullpen, as great as this bullpen is, and this bullpen, by the way, is nasty. Shout outs to Huascar Brazaban and Max Kranick and Edwin Diaz and AJ Minter. As great as this bullpen is, there's going to be times where the bullpen is going to have to give up a run sooner or later. And this Mets bullpen is due for some regression. It's just fantastic how they've been able to be as good as they are. 1.39 bullpen ERA so far this season for the Mets. That's amazing. That's fantastic. But at some point, the pitching is going to be wayward, and the bats are going to have to pick up. So they got to get it together. They have to get it together. This Mets team, there is like they're sleeping almost, and they've got one guy. Again, two runs is not going to cut it. This is a league. This is a league where offense is prevalent. Especially, you look at the makeup of teams in the National League that are doing well to start the season. The Dodgers, the Phillies, the Padres, the Giants. You think going to Chavez Ravine in L.A. or going to Oracle Park in San Francisco or Petco in San Diego, or even going to the Phillies and scoring 2 runs is going to get you a win there? If you think 2 runs get you a win against any of those teams, you're sadly mistaken. Luckily for the Mets, they've played the Marlins. They were able to take care of Toronto this weekend, and now they have the Marlins starting again tonight. But offense has got to wake up. They got to wake up. The other thing that seems to bother me is the defense of Mark Vientos and the defense of Brett Baty. Again, Brett Baty, I've said this before, it's time to end this experiment. Brett Baty just looks so awkward at second base. It's not even funny at this point anymore. Let Luis Angel Acuna play. One thing I noticed in yesterday's game, going into the top of the 9th inning, Carlos Mendoza, he made a defensive substitution in the top of the 9th. He pulled Baty for Acuna to play out the last inning of defense because Brett Baty, not for nothing, but he is not a second baseman. He couldn't even master his position at third. And there were balls hit to Baty. And I don't know what's up with him and Vientos. Vientos does the same thing. They don't dive. They don't slide. It's like they're afraid to get their uniforms dirty. And I just don't understand it. Like, the ball's coming to you. If you dive out, you probably can get it. And Baty and Vientos, they just refuse to get their uniforms dirty, as if the laundry bill is being paid for out of their pockets. I don't understand. There were several times this weekend that a ball was chopped over to Vientos, and he just let that ball go clean. Let it go clean past him. One specific instance, the Blue Jays got a base hit. The ball bounced next to Vientos rather than lay out for it. He just watched it go by. Another time there was a ball that he could have got to that was slow rolled over, and he stopped and let the ball roll to Francisco Lindor as if either he didn't want to field it or he was afraid to field it. So Vientos is not hitting. I mean, he got a base hit in yesterday's game, but he's not hitting. He's not. He's afraid to get his uniform dirty. I don't know what's going on in that young man's head, but it's one thing if you're playing great defense and you're in a slump offensively. But if you're not hitting and you're a lazy fielder, something's got to give, man. Something's got to give. And like I said, we have a more than capable second baseman on the team named Luis Angel Acuna. He should be the everyday second baseman. I don't know why they're platooning second base, especially when, even though Acuna is not hitting much better than Baty, he still is hitting better than Baty. Baty's not even up to 100. So I think it's time to end the Brett Baty at second experiment. I was an advocate to trade Baty at the deadline last season, try to get something for him, but there's clearly no place in this club for Brett Baty. If his bat, and he fooled us all because he had a great spring training. He was out here looking like Jeff Kent 2.0 in spring training, but this season. But I don't know, man. Like Brett Baty's got to go. I don't see him still being here by the time late September rolls around. And I really do believe because he's still young, the Mets could get something for him if they send him to a team like the Athletics or the Rockies, um, the Angels, maybe like somewhere. He'll still be in the majors, but hopefully not not in Queens. Or if he is in Queens, he's on the visiting team. But Brett Baty, how much on the job training is this guy going to get? He tried to play second all spring. I wouldn't even say flashes because those defensive plays he made in the spring, if you go and look up his highlights, they didn't look too great. They were awkward, clumsy, and I understand that he's learning a new position, but it was a mistake to even place him there to begin with because again, he's a third baseman by trade and couldn't even master that position. And you think second base was going to be a doozy? And as for Vientos, I know Vientos is capable of hitting. We saw what he was able to do in the second half of last season. But again, he's got to get his head in the game defensively too, because again, it's one thing if you're in an offensive slump, but if you're in an offensive slump and you're a bad defender, then what use do we have for you? So hoping that those two can figure it out, especially Vientos. But the defense from the both of them, I am very, very underwhelmed. We'll see how they fare in this 3-game series starting tonight against the Miami Marlins. Speaking of that series against the Marlins, tonight, 7:10 p.m., the Marlins are in the house, which is ironic because the Mets won a series against the Marlins 1 week ago. It started exactly 1 week ago today. They went to Miami. They won 2 of 3, and they're facing the Marlins again. Again, this Marlins team, if you're a casual baseball fan or you do not follow baseball heavily, you're going to look at their lineup and say, who? Their top players, Matt Mervis, Griffin Conine, Xavier Edwards, Connor Norby, all guys the casual baseball fan is not going to know. And these are all guys who, if they were on contending teams like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Orioles, the Padres, they would all be in AAA. Just there's no nicer way to put it. A lot of these guys on the Marlins, Kyle Stowers, Jonah Bride, these are all guys who would not be major leaguers in other organizations. But here is the probable pitching matchups for this series that starts tonight and goes to tomorrow and Wednesday. To be determined against Kodai Senga. Reason to be determined. Their game against the Atlanta Braves was postponed due to rain yesterday. Sandy Alcantara was supposed to pitch in that game. I don't know what the Marlins are going to do, and they haven't announced it as of this morning who they're putting on the hill against Kodai Senga. But it remains to be seen if Alcantara will get extra rest or he'll pitch in Queens tonight, which would make things a lot more difficult for this Mets offense, considering how he only allowed 2 runs last week when he faced us in Miami. Tomorrow is going to be Connor Gillespie versus Clay Holmes. That has me a bit nervous because Clay Holmes, despite the strong spring he's had struggles as a starter. Holmes has yet to make it past the 4th inning as a starter in his 2 starts that he has had so far. And then, of course, on Wednesday at 1 o'clock, the getaway game before the Mets go on the road, it's Max Meyer up against Tyler McGill. Tyler McGill with a .85 ERA, looking like he's the ace of the staff. So those are your pitching matchups. I personally think this is going to be a repeat of last week. Mets are going to take 2 out of 3. If the Mets lose this series, I would be thoroughly surprised, very, very shocked. But that's my prediction. I wholeheartedly believe the Marlins are going to come in here and they're going to drop the series. If Sandy Alcantara pitches tomorrow, or tonight, I should say, pardon me, if Sandy Alcantara pitches tonight, I think they win that game. But the games that Gillespie and Meyer are pitching, they're going to lose. I don't see it any other way. Um, I think Clay Holmes tomorrow is going to get the first win of his Mets career. I firmly believe that, and this is the right team to build his confidence against because, again, you look at this Marlins lineup and you say, who? I know I said that a couple of reports ago, but again, you say who because a lot of these guys are AAA level players. No disrespect to them, but again, if Alcantara pitches tonight, then I believe the Marlins will win that game. Of course, Sandy, former Cy Young winner, but the Mets are going to take the series. They're going to take 2 out of 3. Uh, just a production note here before we sign it off for this episode of the Metropolitan Report. The Mets are going to play in Sacramento starting on Friday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'll be in Sacramento playing the Athletics. As you know, I'm based here in New York. There's a 3-hour time difference between us and New York. So those games are going to start at 10:05 p.m. Eastern time. So we will have coverage of that series, but it will be a little delayed only because of the time difference. Metropolitan Report will be back on Thursday after the conclusion of the Marlins series, just to recap the Marlins series and preview the upcoming road trip. The Mets have a brutal schedule. They have 3 in Sacramento and then have 3 in Minnesota before coming back home, and they have no off days in between. So the Mets, they're going in, they're swapping time zones. They're going from they're going from Pacific over to, I believe, Central and coming back east. So that travel might wear on them. But again, the Mets, lengthy road trip. So this upcoming weekend, our coverage of the Mets may be spotty due to time differences, but we're still going to release episodes, still going to have content. We will return this upcoming Thursday before we make an appearance again in the weekend. But don't forget, if you like what you see, if you agree or disagree with anything that I say, leave a comment and let me know. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way, every time we go live, you'll get a notification. And the only thing I can say is bye bye Toronto. It was fun breaking out the brooms for you. And we'll see Miami later tonight. And let's go Mets. And I'll see you guys on Thursday.